welcome to this free mandolin lesson aimed at beginner and intermediate players, and we're going to be looking at some Delta blues, which is what you just heard. Over the course of the next 10 or 12 minutes, I'm going to introduce you to sort of the ideas behind the Delta blues, how we can play it on the mandolin, and I'll show you a few different melodies that you can try. Everything we talk about in this lesson is included in a free PDF, which is linked in the video description below, so you don't have to do any of this by ear. You can have all the tabs and music if that's how you'd like to learn. We just need to establish a few fundamentals before we dive in with any of our melodies, and that is, as soon as anything is the blues, Chicago blues, normal blues, Delta blues, the blues word is very important because that comes with a very set chord progression. 90–95% of all blues songs will have the same chord progression. I won't talk too much about it in this lesson. I've done a previous lesson on the 12-bar blues, and that's linked, so you can try that first if you've never done it, but it's a very strict chord pattern. So everything's 7, so we're going to be in the key of G for this lesson today. So it starts with 4 measures of G, 7, stays there, and then it does 2 measures of C7, and then it goes back to another 2 measures of G7, and then 1 of D, C, G, and then it finishes with a quick D. That's the 12-bar blues. It lasts 12 bars, so you have 4 measures of the root, 2 of the 4 chord, back to the root, and then 1 of the 5 chord, 1 of the 4 chord, and then back to the root, and a quick 5. That is the 12-bar blues. So if you've never played it before, just sit for a minute and get used to that, because every melody we play in this lesson is going to fit over the 12-bar blues pattern. The blues tends to come with a set of notes as well. We'll call it the blues scale. There's a few different versions, but today I'm going to be using what I would call the minor pentatonic blues scale. And again, I've done a lesson on this that is currently, hopefully, linked in the top corner. So we're in the key of G, but to get the blues sound, we use the G minor pentatonic and we add the sharp 4 note, which in this case is a C sharp. So G, A, B, C. C is your 4. So you keep the C and you add a C sharp, and that gives you this sound. That's the scale I will be using today. That gives If you just cycle up and down that, you'll sound like a blues musician without really realising the theory that's going on underneath there. Let's talk about the Delta blues. So it's a very loose description. There's no specific thing when you Google what is Delta blues, but there's a few common traits, and there's 2 main ones that I have noticed. Number 1 is the speed. Delta blues is slow. So it's not... It's kind of It's very slow, which is great if you're a sort of beginner and intermediate play. So nothing is going to be quick in this lesson. And the second one, and most interesting for us on a mandolin with a single pick, is most of the Delta blues is played with fingerstyle guitar. If you Google Delta blues guitar, most that comes up is played with multiple fingers, because what that gives you is it gives you the chance for some fingers to be playing a melody and a thumb or another finger to be playing a bass line. So you can almost have a bass and a melody happening at the same time. Now, I can't finger pick. I've never tried it, and it doesn't necessarily work that well on the mandolin. Anyway, you can give it a go, but we won't in this lesson. What we're going to try and do is play the Delta blues with a flat pick, just one pick. So we're going to try and have a bass line and a melody happening using just the plectrum. So we'll start with an exercise. And I should say at this point, normally I talk a lot about pick direction. You have a free pass today. Most of what you would do in this style of music is actually all downstrokes. So if you see me playing a lot of down, even though on the sheet music it's technically 8th notes, which in fiddle tunes would be down, up, down, I'm playing all downstrokes. So if I just get our little pattern going, the first 2 measures here, this is what we want. So you've essentially got this going, da, ba, 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 ba. That's your bass line with a bit of swing. And then the melody, 1, 2, 3, the second line, when we move to the C chord, what we do is we shift that. So if we're on 0, we shift that to the 5th fret, so your index finger goes to 5, and the same thing happens. So you might have to do a little bar, because it's 5 and 5. And then it goes back to 0. And then when we go to the D, we carry on that idea of index finger doing all the work, so we go to 7. Down to 5. So let's just try that starting exercise once together. 1, 2, 3, 4, G. Measure 3. Here's the C. Back to G. To D. C. G. And then the end. Once you're comfortable with that exercise, we can now make a few tweaks and turn that into a bit more of a melody. So we're going to keep the principle of that, the bass line, da, 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 and we'll introduce a few more notes. So let me take it through your phrase by phrase. We're doing 2-bar phrases. So the first phrase is this. So we go 5, 5, 3, 5, 8, 8, 5, 8, 5, and notice it's my ring finger that's come up to play that 8. The second phrase, bars 3 and 4, start the same. So it's very similar, but just a little chromatic to get us to the C. And then I'm just going to fly through this because we'll play through it twice at the end. So then we're in the C. So we index finger on the 5. 8, 8, 5, 8, 5. So this is all 3, 4. 8, 8, 5, 8. 8, 8, 5, 8, 5. So it's just like the exercise, we're just making it a bit more complicated. We go back to G. 5, 5, 3, 5. A little phrase to get us to the 7. So we're down on the D chord. 10, 10, 7, 10. 8, 8, 5, 8. Okay, and then a very important ending phrase that is very every sort of Delta blues I listen to finished a bit like this. So the last 2 measures are really important. Sound like this. So that's a big D chord. 2002. It's a D chord, not a D. You could do D7, but I've just gone for a D. So that last 2 measures again. 2, 3, 4. Let's play the whole thing twice from the top, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. Back to G. Down to D. End phrase. Let's go again. Top. 8. To C. end. One final level that you can do, if you remember back to the very start of the video, I played a bit more of a double stop version, and I have tabbed one out for you. It's exactly the same theory, so we're still using... And if you've never done double stops before, they're just other notes of the chord. I've done other lessons on double stops as well. So I will just play each phrase. So we're a little bit more down this end of the neck. So we start here, literally G to G7. Maybe worth playing your G with middle and ring so that your index finger can get the 7. Just goes between them, and then a little phrase, and then another double stop. Little 5 and 2, 4 and 2, 3 and 2, down to C, and then another double stop. So this is a C7 double stop, and then we go back to the first double stops, G to G7, switch between them, and then this time don't go down to the 7, go to the open, down to the 5, and then the same ending phrase from the first melody. So that's a fun little thing to do, just essentially G to G7 is that first one, and then another G that steps down to G7, C, little C7 double stop down here, then back to G, G and G7, D to a D7. All more double stops seem to be the 7th chord to give us that blues sound, and then our same ending phrase. So just to finish this video, let's play that melody once through so you can have a go at this double stop melody. 1, 2, 3, 4. C double stop. Same as the first one. D. So I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction into what you would loosely call the Delta blues. What we're mainly trying to do is emulate that fingerstyle guitar on the mandolin using the 12-bar blues. It's good fun. You could just loop it round and round and round, make it more and more complicated as you go. Do your own improvising. You know what the scale is, you know what the chords are. See if you can write your own version of it. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Please hit like and subscribe if you have. We do these lessons every month, so you can head over to mandolin.com for all the other free lessons we've done. And we'll see you next month.